My brother told my son that we are not a true family. So I did not ask him to my wedding, and now my parents are refusing to go. I'm 32 years old and about to marry my longtime partner. What should have been one of the happiest times of my life has turned into a terrible ordeal due to a growing schism in my family. To give you some history, I am my parents' biological son. When I was 12, they adopted two biological siblings, Jack, aged 8, and Liam, aged 5. From the start, it was evident that things would be difficult. Jack had major behavioral issues as a result of acute trauma. I won't go into detail, but it was significant. I did my best to be understanding, but living with him was nothing short of stressful. His outbursts were constant, and I often felt like I was walking on eggshells, afraid of triggering him. As we grew older, I tried to be there for Jack despite everything. A few years ago, Jack developed a severe heroin addiction. I was by his side through his worst times, helping him through recovery and doing everything I could to help him get back on his feet. It was exhausting and upsetting, but I did it because I loved him and knew that, despite our differences, we were still brothers. Liam, on the other hand, was always easy to get along with, and I developed a stronger bond with him. Even yet, I've always felt like an outsider. Jack and Liam's closeness as biological siblings was apparent, and I never felt like I was really a part of it. It seemed as if I was always on the edge, trying to fit in but never truly accepted. The problem came to a head recently during a Sunday dinner at my parents' home. My son was doing his summer schoolwork, which included creating a family tree. He innocently asked Jack if he wanted to be included, and he simply responded no. He didn't want to be a part of it because, in his own words, we're not genuine brothers. He said it nonchalantly, as if it was the most obvious thing in the world, with no concern for how badly it would cut me to the heart. I was completely surprised, but what broke me even more was the fact that Liam, whom I'd always felt closer to, sat there in silence. He didn't say anything. He did not defend me or acknowledge how upsetting Jack's statements were. He simply let it happen. Despite the numerous hurdles, I've made every effort to be supportive of both of them, particularly Jack. So Jack saying that, and Liam doing nothing felt like a stomach punch. They both seemed to be telling me unequivocally that I was never actually a member of their family. In my anguish and despair, I decided to not invite Jack and Liam to my wedding. My boyfriend has been completely supportive of my decision, however my parents are upset. They have made it clear that if Jack and Liam are not invited, they will not go. It feels like history is repeating itself, with my parents once again choosing Jack over me, no matter how much it hurts me. I am heartbroken that my parents would choose to skip my wedding rather than support me in this. I know Jack has been through a lot, but I've done everything I can to support him and Liam, despite the suffering. And now I feel like I'm being punished for finally standing up for myself and establishing some boundaries. AITA, for not inviting my brothers after they stated that they do not consider me family, even if it means that my parents will not attend my wedding? Snowybird 60, NTA Liam and Jack have been part of your family for 20 years. If you aren't family by now, what the heck are you? I have a serious issue with your folks. They are absolutely the arseholes in all of this. When Jack said that to your son, they should have stepped out and defended you. The fact that they let him get away with it and now say they won't attend your wedding is ridiculous. I would advise them not to bother attending to your wedding, and that you hope they are content with their two sons. Then I'd grab my son and go full NC with them. I've actually pondered going NC with them in the past. But I've never got the guts to actually do it. I believe I would have had a better life if I had done it sooner. Reineke Fuchs, 1991. Adoptive parents have a sense of guilt. You hear so many horrific stories about biological children being prioritized over adopted children, resulting in overcompensation. You should be grateful. Just as you are for your biological parents, he had it far worse. So we got to make amends to him, even if they weren't the main source of the problem. The goal is to treat your kids equally. If one does anything, he receives a compliment. If he misbehaves, he faces penalties. Despite all of their efforts, he became addicted to drugs, indicating that their strategy was unsuccessful. I don't blame them or him for his drug problem. As children, Jack and Liam experienced truly horrific events. I won't go into detail here, but you can understand how it left lifelong scars on you, despite the fact that they had undergone extensive therapy. Jack once told me that when he's high on drugs, it's the only moment in his life when he doesn't have to recall everything and feels at peace. Obviously, I should not be the one constantly picking up parts of him, but I can see why he got into drugs. He's still an arsehole, however. Haha, you're fine. Also, OP made no mention of Liam being a member of the family, and it's possible that Liam isn't even aware of his relationship with OP. I think it's worth OP having a one-on-one conversation with Liam. I've always been closer to Liam than Jack. To be clear, I've always considered them both brothers. I thought Jack was a pain in the ass, but I still thought of him as a brother. Otherwise, I would not have continued to assist him. Oop as to why his son was asking the brothers about the family tree. Oop, because he was 5 and wanted to show off what he was doing. I have never said anything to suggest that they are not my brothers. He's not even aware that they are adopted. It's not because we hide it, it's simply not something we've ever discussed as a family. Adding uncles and aunties to the family tree was an optional expansion, and he said it calmly, "Help me adieu, and if you don't want to be in the tree, you don't deserve to be, you're honestly grasping at straws here." I have no problem with someone labeling me Ta, but don't create up context to justify it. Update 1 August 18th, 2024. I'm still reeling from everything that happened since my last post. First and foremost, thank you to everyone who took the time to leave a remark. I have read through all of your advice and it has been a lifeline. But hold on, for things have taken a crazy turn. After hearing from so many of you, I realized I wanted to speak with Liam. We met at a tavern, and I just lay it out there. I was very sad when he didn't say anything after Jack made that nasty comment about not being actual brothers. I partly expected him to defend himself, but what I received was quite different. Liam admitted to live in fear of Jack for years. He told me he kept quiet that night because he was afraid of upsetting Jack, not because he agreed with him. Then he revealed a bombshell. Despite being Jack's biological brother, he has felt just as out of place in our family as I have. The relentless pressure from our parents to accommodate to Jack's every whim has worn him down, but Liam informed me that he has always considered me a brother and regrets not sticking up for me sooner. Hearing this was a big comfort. He's entirely on my side now, and we agreed that if Jack can't appreciate me as a brother, he doesn't belong at my wedding or in our life. But just when I thought things couldn't get much worse, my parents decided to escalate the situation. I sat them down and explained why I didn't invite Jack, hoping they would understand. Instead, they issued an ultimatum. If Jack is not invited, they will not attend my wedding. There is no room for discussion or empathy. Just a flat refusal. I was gutted. After all these years of prioritizing Jack's needs over mine, this is how they repay me. I couldn't hold back any longer. I vented all of my rage and frustration that had been building up for years. I told them that I'd always been the one to make sacrifices, that they'd always prioritized Jack, and that I was tired of being treated as if I didn't matter. I made it plain that if they chose not to attend my wedding, that is their decision, and I will make mine. With that, I walked away, leaving them to make their own decisions. Jack suddenly began flooding me with the vilest, most cruel texts I'd ever received. He accused me of turning Liam against him, tearing the family apart, and calling me selfish for leaving him. He spoke about never feeling like he belonged in the family, and how it was all my fault for pushing him away. His remarks were harsh, but they also opened my eyes. Jack has spent his entire life blaming others for his difficulties, and I have been his favorite scapegoat. This time, however, I will not allow him guilt-trip me. I didn't even react, I simply blocked his number. If he can't recognize what he did wrong, there's nothing else to say. Liam was furious when I informed him about Jack's messages. He is more determined than ever to support me, and we have chosen to maintain little contact with our parents until after the wedding. Liam has been a rock throughout this process, assisting me with wedding planning and ensuring that I am not dealing with this disaster alone. So, the wedding is still taking place, but with a substantially lower guest list. My parents haven't contacted me since our dispute, and I don't care whether they turn up or not. This day is about me and my fiancé, and I'm not going to allow anyone, including my own family, ruin it. Thank you again for all of your help and suggestions. I'll keep you updated if anything else happens, but I'm hoping my next blog is simply about how wonderful the wedding was. Fingers crossed. Comments. RocketTim69 emphasizes the importance of having security to prevent Jack from disrupting the wedding. Foxy Sly Old, Stouty Fox, you may look back in years to come and realize that your parents' reaction was not unexpected. That's not to say it won't harm now or in the future. Fair play to Liam, and congrats on having at least one family member that adores you. Update 2 August 25th, 2024. Hello everyone, I just wanted to provide an update after all that has happened over the past week. A lot has changed, and I'm pleased to report that things are improving. 2 days after our disagreement, Jack contacted me. I had no idea what to anticipate when he asked if we could meet up, and I was hesitant, but I accepted. When we first sat down, he apologized. He apologized for what he said to my son and admitted he didn't know why he said it. Jack appeared sincerely regretful, and I could tell he meant it. This wasn't just another apology to smooth things up, it was unique and seemed genuine. After apologizing, Jack took a long breath and admitted something I should have seen coming. He told me that he had relapsed before the dispute even began. Hearing that struck me hard. It explained so much about his behavior in the weeks preceding that event, including his irritation, distance, and withdrawal from everyone. I realized I had missed all of the signs. I'm not proud to admit it, but I was so caught up in my problems with Jack's behavior and my wedding that I didn't consider the possibility that something deeper was going on. Jack's confession was more than just about the relapse, it was about accepting responsibility in a way he had never done before. He went on to say that after realizing the damage he'd done, he decided to check himself into therapy. This may appear to be a routine step, but for Jack, it was significant. Jack had previously only entered treatment after being sectioned by social services and ordered to do so, or because my parents threatened to kick him out until he got assistance. But this time, he decided on his own. That was something he'd never tried before, and it demonstrated that he was sincere about wanting to change. He told me that he's doing this because the idea of losing me and his brother was too much for him to bear. He wants to take this seriously because he wants to show me that he can do it. He told me that he considers me to be part of his family, and that he feels terrible for making me feel otherwise. Jack has also consented to start taking medicine to assist calm his nerves, which he had never done previously. It's been about 5 or 6 days since Jack checked himself in for treatment, and I've been visiting him on a regular basis. At first I went alone since I wasn't sure how my kid would react to seeing Jack so soon after what had transpired. But after a few visits, I felt it was vital for my kid to see that Jack was trying to make things right. So I brought him along, and Jack used the chance to apologize to him immediately. It was a really emotional experience for me as a parent. My son is still young and doesn't really grasp what's been going on, but he could tell Jack was sorry. That seemed to make a difference for him. They even spent some time together simply talking and playing, which seemed like a significant step forward for all of us. Throughout this, my brother Liam has been really supportive. We've talked a lot about Jack, and Liam clearly wants him to succeed as much as I do. We both know how much Jack's tragedy has impacted him, and while this does not justify his behavior, it does help us understand why he has battled so much. Having Liam by my side during this has helped me feel much less alone. Reflecting about everything, I've realized that I need to accept responsibility for my actions and how things escalated. In the weeks leading up to the dispute, Jack had done things that irritated me. Instead of dealing with it calmly, I let my aggravation to rise until I ultimately snapped. Looking back, I can see that his behaviors were most likely related to his relapse, and I should have recognized it sooner. I feel bad for not recognizing the warning signs and behaving in the way I did, but I'm trying to focus on what I can do to help Jack now that he's taking his rehabilitation seriously. When I wrote my first 2 posts, I was really frustrated with Jack. And while nothing I said was incorrect or false, I did build a picture of Jack's most terrible moments without including everything else. I'd like to remind everyone about Jack's trauma. Jack suffered serious abuse from his birth family, including substantial CS. Liam did as well. But Jack's was far more severe. Jack now laughs about being their biological father's favorite in all the wrong ways. Jack started using drugs at an early age, but I assumed he was clean for a time. I've discussed it before, but Jack has told me that almost 20 years after being adopted by our parents, he still has dreams about his abuse. He claims that the only time he feels peaceful is when he is high. Jack's trauma is deep, and it continues to affect him every day. I'm not making excuses for his conduct, but it's vital to realize that he's going through a lot of grief. Despite everything, I continue to believe in Jack. I believe he has the strength to overcome his past, and with Liam and me at his side, I am hopeful that he will succeed. I'd also like to thank everyone who offered advice and support on my last article. Your thoughts helped me see things from a fresh perspective, and provided me the motivation I needed to address this circumstance more compassionately. There is still a long journey ahead, but I believe we are on the right track now. For the time being, things appear to be improving. Jack is taking his treatment seriously, and our family is gradually recovering. We're taking things one day at a time, and I'm committed to assisting Jack as long as he's willing to help himself. Thank you all again for your support. Your advice has been useful at this tough time. On to the next story. Story 2. I caught my wife cheating and gave the tape to our children. I also forwarded it to her sick mother and her boss. Hello everyone. I'll try to make this post short. My wife, 32, cheated on me, 35. She and I had been married since she was 22, and I believed our marriage was ideal. We have 2 boys, ages 7 and 6. I had my doubts since she began arriving at our house 40 minutes late after work, which continued for 3 weeks until I decided to investigate. I hired a private investigator, who obtained images and recordings of her with her lover, a coworker, and I resolved to exact retribution. I gave those movies to her mother, who has a terminal disease. I don't want her to die believing that her daughter is an angel. I also sent those videos to her friends, my family, and her boss. Because her workplace has a stringent regulation against workers having connections with their lover's wife. My children were at my parents' place before that happened. and she was working. I requested my supervisor for a few days off, which is why I was able to complete all of this during work hours. Then I showed my children a video of her mother with her lover and informed them that we were going to split because of her. Of course, they were upset, crying and hugging me. I'll take them to a psychologist when I divorce my wife. We live in an at-fault state, so having evidence of her infidelity would aid me in the divorce. I'll agree that I wasn't the ideal husband, but I never did anything wrong for her to cheat on me, so why did she do it? I'm not sure. And I don't really care right now. After all of this, my older brother approached me, and we talked privately. He told me I was an arsehole to my kids. He understands my need for vengeance, but he believes I have traumatized them by showing him those tapes and speaking to them in such a way about their mother. I told him it was my wife's fault, not mine, and he said he understood, but he feels I should have waited a little before telling them. We argued for nearly 30 minutes. My brother called me an arsehole again. He is my brother and loves me, but he believes I was nasty to the children. That happened 3 days ago. And I still can't stop thinking about it. So AITA? If you're wondering, my wife has attempted to contact me and speak with me and the kids, but they don't want to see her. And neither do I. From what I understand, she is staying at her sister's home. I neglected to include that I told my children that and showed them the video because I didn't want their mother to blame me for the divorce. In my head, I needed to provide them proof that I wasn't the evil guy, so I showed them the video. Comment. GBN, did you show a 6 and 7-year-old footage of their mother with another man? You're a freaky weirdo. AITA. Update August 15, 2024. Several people have requested for an update on private, so I will provide one, but I will try to keep it short. Also, many of you believe my narrative is bogus because it is not original. Truthfully, this made me giggle. What? You expect me to say that a unicorn descended from the sun? Believe me or not, it's your problem. I'm not going to get on my knees to make you believe me. Basically, my wife cheated on me, and I acquired proof, which I revealed to my children so they knew I wasn't the bad guy in our divorce, at least in my perspective. Several days after posting, my wife invited me to meet her in public. I knew I had to talk to her sooner or later, so I went to the park. The chat lasted over 2 hours, but these are the most significant topics. She told me that when I gave proof of her cheating to her mother, who has a terminal illness, her mother was saddened and disappointed in her. I told her that it was her problem, not mine. She told me that her ex-lover's wife had lost the baby. I forgot to mention that his wife was pregnant, and based on the documentation I supplied her of her husband cheating on my wife, I told her that it was his responsibility, not mine. She told me, as many of you did, that she may file charges against me for sharing the videos with others. The videos of her cheating, the fact that I could lose custody of my children. Yes, biologically they are mine. I did something I am not proud of. I emotionally manipulated her. I cried. Because, despite appearances, all of this left me emotionally shaken. I cried. I told her it was her fault, and that I felt cornered. She cried, and we cried for about 20 minutes before we were able to calm down. We discussed and came to an agreement. She will keep the house, I will move out, and she will have custody of the children. But I have the right to visit them as much and whenever I choose. She did not lose her work because it appears that her father is close with her supervisor. I understand that this is illegal, but overall, this worked out great for me. I am not going to shake things anymore. I'm not sure if her ex-partner will keep the position or not. And honestly, I don't care anymore. I am currently assisting my wife in rebuilding her relationship with our children. They gradually vowed to try for me. And I decided to take kids to a psychologist now so that the divorce would be less stressful for them. So that's the update. Is this original enough for you? LOL. Comments. Moto Kenji 25. I am presuming her counsel informed her that what he did was illegal, so instead of not reporting it to authorities or having it come up in court, he simply gave in. Oop. When I was a child, my father instructed my brothers and me that if someone treated us unfairly, we should treat them even worse, so that they would regret meeting us. Maybe I went too far with my children. But for the most part, I believe I did nothing wrong, and I am obviously relieved that everything will work out in the divorce. Oop, regarding why he was sharing the movie to his children. Oop, in my opinion, I did it not to hurt my wife but so that they could see for themselves that she was the evil one and was to blame for our divorce, not me.